This whole past month, I have felt super crunched by time. I recognize how we had this trajectory that started with Christmas, and we got to Easter, and I didn't program enough self-care, and then I had these big projects, which of course I kept saying, as soon as Easter's over, I'll do them, and you really don't need to hear the whole story about me in the quicksand of time, so I'll just drop out the words. Wah, wah. Blah, blah, blah. Wah, 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 wah. Blah, 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 blah. And it was in one of those gloves that I found this phrase in the Bible. Now, I'm not one of those people who goes, oh, I feel stressed, let me go find the Bible, let me see what, is going to help me. Actually, one of my big projects is teaching an online class to a church in Ohio, Hebrew Scriptures. So, there I was, reading the Bible for class, and I found this scripture which is perfect. It was perfect. It saved my life. Then Joshua spoke to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the sons of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, O sun, stand still at Gibeon, and O moon in the valley of Ajalon. So the sun stood still and the moon stopped until the nations avenged themselves on their enemies. Now in Unity we interpret everything metaphysically and sometimes literally, and I was like, oh, hot dog. I can make the sun stand still. I can stop time so that I can do all the work that's mine to do. I can stop time so I can accomplish all the things that are mine to accomplish, so I can have this greater, richer, fuller, more wonderful life. Like, I can do that. I didn't even have to look in the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. But I did, and picked out a few key words. Just a few key words. Joshua metaphysically represents the deliverer of salvation. So Joshua is a different consciousness, but has the same name as Jesus. Joshua, Jeshua, Jesus. Same name, same metaphysical meaning. The deliverer of salvation. So the key to freedom. Gibeon is that high point in spiritual consciousness where we let go of our human ideas and we let go of our human desires and we seek the presence of God. Ajalon is the valley where the moon is, and that makes sense because the moon is a reflection of the light of the sun, and the sun represents spiritual intelligence, and the moon represents personal intelligence, and here we are all together in that really high, amazing place where time stands still. I love it. It's inspirational to me. So the metaphysical interpretation writes out like this. Our salvation from whatever we're experiencing can be found when we tune into the presence of God and bring our thoughts into alignment with superconsciousness. Our salvation, the upward evolution of our spiritual journey, comes to us when our thoughts are a reflection of God's thoughts. If we ask it to, time will stand still. So I'm like, yep, for whatever I'm experiencing, yep, on my upward evolution of the spiritual journey. That's our natural birthright. That's heaven on earth. I totally get that. But how in the world do we make time stand still? I mean, like, for real. For real. There was this thing going around on the internet that actually took an atomic clock, and the story said that with this atomic clock, they went back and they traced it, and actually about the time where Joshua would have been having this experience, there was this big gap, and therefore, yes, time stood still, but nope, Snopes checked it out. I don't know if you know Snopes, but it's this online thing that debunks stories that really ought to be debunked. So how do we stop time? I think that our evolution of science actually explains a lot. And I've long been fascinated with the difference between Newtonian and Einsteinian science. Because Newtonian science is all about mechanics. It's all about how we have constructed time and space as an explanation for why and how things happen. Where Einsteinian thinking is open and expansive, and it takes whatever might happen, and when we put our attention on it with intention, then those things actually happen. And there's one big giant force of good that's always working for us in Einsteinian thinking. And I think this is magnificent because it really resonates. This paradigm, this scientific paradigm of Einsteinian thinking resonates with the unity metaphysical philosophy. We believe that there's only one presence and one power active in the universe and in our lives, God the good. We believe that we are mindful co-creators with God. So we take the ideas that we get from God and we use the law of attention, we use the law of expansion, and when we pay our attention to those things, whatever those things are, they change. They transform. It is so cool. So if we pay attention to time and we put our attention on time, time can actually change. In Einsteinian thinking, time expands and time contracts. So we can actually have an affirmation that says, time expands to meet my needs. Say it with me. Time expands to meet my needs. Time expands to meet my needs. I just think this is amazingly fascinating. And one of the ways that we can bend time, this is the first of a two-part series, so this week it's about time and next week it's still about time, is to have a super conscious experience, is to play with time on that super conscious level, on that high holy place where we let go of our personal desires and we seek the presence of God. So having this super conscious experience, actually we can bend time. And I bend and play with time all the time coming to work. All the time. My route is I come down Military Cutoff, which turns into Oleander, and I play with time and I intend for the lights to be green. And they are. Even the one at college. Even the one at college. It's phenomenal. And I play with this every day because I want to be in a realm that where I can say time expands to meet my need and I can depend on it. I can depend on putting something in that space that I've just created with that super conscious experience. There's a phenomenon that has been happening for centuries, and in India it's written up and well documented that gurus can appear to be in two places at one time. Yes? It's called teleporting. But it's a way of bending time so that you see that one person in two places. There was an American by the name of Dale Power, and he decided that he was going to experiment with teleporting. So he set up a lab situation, and his experimental platform was his couch in his house. So he set it up, and there was a clock on the wall, and he set it up, and the second time he said, and actually none of his experiments were ever very successful teleporting, but he discovered something else. And so the second time he's attempting to teleport, he sits there, and when he opens his eyes, he realized the clock on the wall has stopped. And he thought, oh, it's batteries. But by the next morning, that clock had caught up to regular time. And he thought, I'm still changing the batteries. That's just a phenomenon of oddity. So he changes the batteries, and then now it's the third time he's going to have his teleporting experience, and he sits down and he meditates, and when he opens his eyes, the clock on the wall is 7 minutes slow. And within 12 hours, that clock had caught up. And he said, this is very interesting. So he's going, I'm ready to teleport for the fourth time. This fourth time is going to work. And by the way, I'm going to hold a digital clock in my hands, and I'm going to move my couch so that it's right up underneath that analog clock on the wall. And on the other side of the house, I'm going to put a third clock, and I'm going to see what happens. So he meditates to do his teleport attempt, which doesn't happen. But when he comes out of meditation, both the clock in his hand and the clock on the wall were exactly 20 minutes and 30 seconds behind. The clock on the other side of the house was less than a minute behind, and all three clocks had reset to current time by the time morning rolled around. So he figured he's on now a way that he could bend and warp time. And these are some of the things he said about it. I noticed during these episodes the variance of time was directly proportional to my own perception of my meditative state. The deeper I went, the more time skewed. Time seems to have an elastic quality that causes it to catch up or wait for the rest of local time. In other words, if you bend it, it will snap back into place. The effects of these experiments seem, by and large, temporary. From this, I learned to bend time to warp it with consistent results. During further experiments, I learned that for some reason, it's far simpler to warp time while moving in space. And he wasn't talking about his spaceship. He was saying like when he was walking or when he was in a car. So he says, while this effect may work well under the conditions of being in space, he has not yet had the opportunity to try it. He said, the idea is tricky to hold in your mind, but it works very well when you get the hang of it. Now, he's not the only one who's had this experience. Nikki had an experience not that long ago when she was at a Hendricks training. She and a group of people went out to lunch, and after lunch, they got back in the car and they realized that they had only allocated 12 minutes for a drive back to the training site that usually takes more than 20. And in the Hendricks community, it is not just bad form to be late. It's considered an integrity breach, because you're breaking your agreement and you're ripping off the group. So here they were, the four of them, getting in the car, and Nikki was driving, and she looked at the other person who was right in the front. She said, Morgan, let's bend time. And Morgan said, okay, absolutely, let's bend time. And here's some of the thoughts. They have that intention now. They have the commitment. They have the depth. Here are some of the thoughts they put in that space. I don't care what other people think about the possibility or impossibility of getting there in 12 minutes. I know that I can laser my thinking to align with the possibility that we can. I don't care what my personal experience has been driving this route. My new experience of driving this route is that it will take less than 12 minutes. I see myself driving safely and responsibly. I see myself easily obtaining a parking space close to the building. Because, you know, that counts too. I'm fully present to my current experience. I see myself in my seat by the time Katie rings the bell. And they were. And they were in that open space. I think we as a people don't give ourselves enough credit for the power that we have. We are in charge of time. We control time. It's not the other way around. We are the ones who have the ability to open, Einsteiningly. We have the ability to open and play with time just like it was silly putty. We can stretch it. We can push it down. Now for thousands of years, mystical teachers and spiritual masters have taught us that there's an astral plane. On the astral plane, time does not exist at all. And what we can do for our superconscious experience is put our consciousness into that astral plane where there is no time. To place our intentions with us where there is no time and create a vibration so that when we do come back to the present moment, that vibration will bend time. Abraham says it like this. The amount of time it takes you to get from where you are to where you want to be is only the amount of time it takes you to change the vibration within you. Instant manifestation could be yours if you could instantly change the vibration. Want to try it?
Sure.
Yeah, because time expands to meet our needs. So what I'm going to ask you to do is think of an intention. Think of something that you would like, a way of being, some experience that you'd like to have. Maybe it's a mountain of work you want to accomplish. Maybe it's a time you want to shorten up, like you know you're going to have to go check in at the airport and there's nothing longer than waiting for that plane to, get ready to be loaded. So to see how you want to expand and contract time, and then place it in the astral plane. Place it in that super consciousness of God. Place it in that high place where we've let go of our ideas and our desires and have nothing but that intention. in this bent time. So let's sing Have Your Way, and then we're going to come into the